Hey, it's Craig Hemingway, Communications Manager for the City of Moose Jaw, and welcome to the Notorious Jawcast, the official podcast, videocast of the City of Moose Jaw. And coming up on this episode, Halloween, a healthy Halloween from our Parks and Recreation Department. Some trick-or-treat ideas coming up for you. But right now, a discussion on planning, business development in the city of Moose Jaw and how it relates to the recent River Pointe Park proposal, which has been recently withdrawn by the developer. A lot of questions, a lot of valid questions and comments from our community on this particular proposal. And so we wanted to give you the background on this proposal and, in a general sense, how planning and development works and what happens when we do get requests from private developers. So to tell us all about that is our city manager, Jim Puffalt, and director of planning and development services for the city of Moose Jaw, Michelle Sanson. Jim, hello.
Hello, Craig. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Craig.
Great to have you guys joining us. We wanted to have you both on today to talk about planning, business development in the city of Moose Jaw, and certainly as it relates to the recent River Pointe Park proposal, which has since been withdrawn, and we thought it would be beneficial to go over that whole process and fill in some of the blanks and where people may have some questions. But first, Jim, I just want to start with you and to talk about the city's overall approach to development, business development, and kind of a general sense on the process of when developers approach us, because it does happen quite frequently.
Yeah, we're very busy. Our development office is very busy, and we receive probably hundreds of requests for discussions with us. And we know that not every concept may be totally feasible, but we feel we have an obligation to the community. And one of our business lines is to help developers grow and make projects happen in Moose Jaw. So we work very closely with developers, make sure they have the information they need to be able to work through our processes. And we're very proud of the fact that Michelle's department can get a project through as quickly as possible. And we make it a priority. And as we discussed, I think a few times, we have a super internal economic development committee that takes all these requests. We get everybody in the same room working together on these to make sure that we're not bouncing people back and forth. And we're very proud, as I said, to be able to get projects through quickly in comparison to other cities that can take almost years to get development projects through. So we're very proud of what we do, and we feel it's a very important line of business that we have, because again, every new business to the community, every business we can help expand in the community brings more jobs, brings more economic activity, brings more property taxation, brings more building permits. It's a huge important part of what we do, and we have to be very good at it. And I think we're very proud of the work that we do.
Would it be fair to say that even in the simplest requests from business, though, there are still some layers of work that we need to get through before those issues and those developments can be brought forward and even be recommended to move forward? Would that be accurate?
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, again, a lot of times developers are not exactly sure what the process is. They have this tremendous idea. They don't know the steps that are required to get through, and that's what we do for people, is we walk them through those steps, tell them the specific things that they need to be able to do to get their projects done. And it can be massive developments like River Pointe, or it can be smaller developments internally in the city. Just a change from one use of a building to another use can require a number of different requirements, including building code changes, change of use to the building. Some require zoning changes. So I mean, it's really important that everybody comes to see us first before they start a project, because there is requirements there, and those requirements are there to ensure that the city's interests as a whole are protected. And just as when we get into the River Pointe discussion, there's public consultation required in some spots, and some spots we can approve internally. And then obviously anything that is a major impact upon the city or city land, at times there's requirement for council to get approved. So it's really a complicated process that, by us all working together and sitting down with developers, we can walk them through the process and say, okay, well, if you want to do this, this is the things that you need to do. And then we'll help you work your way through the process. We'll get the approvals. We'll make sure that you have everything you need to get an approval and get it done as quickly as possible, because it's really important to developers that they can get their project into the ground as quickly as possible. And we've got great success stories over the last couple of years. the Great Plains Power Plant was a huge issue. Tons of work that we had to get through, regulatory work that we had to do, that SAS Power had to do, that the province of Saskatchewan had to do. But again, we sat down, we put our noses to the grindstone, and we got the work done. And we're so proud and so happy that our anchor tenant in the Moose Jaw Agri-Food Industrial Park is a power plant that we worked really hard to get. And so again, that's the success of when we put our team together and the work that we're able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you referenced River Pointe Park, and recently the developer chose to withdraw their application to amend our city's official community plan. And this was a private development who had requested that amendment so that they could have some land rezoned so that they could create this development of them for themselves. And Michelle, our official community plan, the OCP, was created and adopted in 2011. And I know you were involved in that process. So can you give us a brief background of that and what the OCP is for people that may not know?
Sure. So the OCP is the city's official community plan, which is the city's overarching policies for development. So where we want to grow, how we want to grow, and what that's going to look like for the city. This was the city's first official community plan. The city didn't actually have an OCP prior to 2011. So it was really exciting to be part of the first official community plan for the city. And part of that is looking at future growth for the city. And all of our areas surrounding the city would be designated with future growth designation. So could be industrial, could be commercial, could be residential. Could be River Valley Conservation, could be parks, could be community service, any of those types of things. So when we look at a project coming in, we look at the OCP and does it fit that future growth on our map? So we would look at that and compare it and see what that would look like long term.
And I mean, would a good example even be the announced joint use school on South Hill, when there was an area of town that had their own plan done for West Heath for residential development, and of course some adjustments had to be made once the province came through with their request to have that land for a school, and we worked through the processes internally and with council to make that happen.
That's right. So in terms of the OCP, we did have to look at the OCP because there are some guiding policies for elementary schools and schools in general for the city and where to locate those. And they have should clauses in there, and that it should be in the middle of an area. So we had to look at that and give that to council when they were making that decision of going forward, that it does say should, it doesn't say shall, but it does say should. So we had to look at that and move that forward. But we did have a concept plan for that area without a school. So coming back and redrawing it with a school in it is definitely something new. So the ministry and the school divisions are looking at doing a new concept plan for the city for that area, including a school location.
Right. And so there are various levels, again, of approvals and regulations and rules that must be followed when these requests come in, and they do vary. And in the case of River Pointe Park, again, that was private land, privately held land, and a private developer. Jim, if somebody were to come and want to set up a private development on city-owned land, the process would be a little bit different in terms of council involvement and involvement earlier on in the process than what may have happened here. Would that be right?
Well, again, that's every situation is somewhat unique, and that's a little bit different than even on city land. If it's the land comes through and we're able to sell it at the council approved price, again, that's where we generally have the authority from council to make something happen. Again, council can't be involved in absolutely every small decision. There's just so many that they wouldn't have time to do anything else. And so they count on us to make sure that we follow the process and get the information to council when we're able to, because sometimes we have to be really careful on private developments, because if they're buying city land and they want to do a project in the city and the information gets out too soon, that can actually stop a project from happening here. So it's really a tightrope that we have to walk to make sure that council's aware of what's going on and we can bring it to the public as soon as we're possibly able to. But lots of times developers will walk away if information comes out too quickly, because I mean they're in the business of making money, and we want them to make money, because if they're successful in Moose Jaw. but we have to help them work through the process. And I mean, sometimes if something's not ready to bring out, we can't bring it out. And, you know, the school is probably a good example where that was on city land. It was going to be something quite a bit different than expected. You know, we had to get in front of council and have a discussion with them as to what they wanted to do there and then work that process through. So every situation is somewhat unique, and that's why we're so happy that we have such a, you know, a great planning and development department that knows the processes and how we can walk our way through them and get projects to completion.
And in this River Pointe Park case, you know, May of 2019 was when, you know, they come and the application, their plans are revealed to planning and development. And then at that point, again, speaking to Jim's point about confidentiality, at that point, our team, Michelle, you guys have to provide feedback to the developer saying, well, we need this, 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 and this. And then that all takes time, right?
That's correct. So when they came in May 2019, they presented their proposal and what their thought was for this whole area, and we said, okay, slow down. We gotta, you know, get to that end point, but before we get there, there's some hurdles we're gonna have to overcome. So including various reports and studies, as well as some of the challenges with the OCP. Like the OCP, amending it does require public consultation, city council approval, and then ultimately ministerial approval. So those were some of the hurdles, and we did mention all of those challenges to the developer at that point. And that's what, when they do come to us in the beginning, we are allowed to give them those, you know, perspectives right from the very start, and what are the challenges going through this, and what you need to do to even get to the point of bringing it forward to council.
Yeah, and so from there, again, the developer, they go back and do the work they need to do based on our recommendations, and then it's a ongoing dialogue to see the status of those reports and studies and everything else. And there were numerous reports and studies that had to get done before any of this could even take the next step, right?
That's right. Yeah, there was a number of studies that were required, and all of those required outside engineers or, you know, third-party engineers to go through a lot of different issues and to cover off those bases. And so that took a lot of time and energy from their part to get all of those together and put in place. Like, and any one of those could take 3 months to put together. So a lot of time to get to the point of bringing it forward to council.
And that's probably a good point there, Craig, is that, again, we meet with many developers and some projects don't go past that initial meeting stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we talk to them and say, okay, well, you need to do this, this, and this, there's issues with, you're in a river valley. You know, there are times that the developer will go away and not come back ever again. So we don't, you know, particularly know what could happen, but we always give that information up front because we want people to be aware, you know, what they're getting into when they start a process. But those projects don't always come back to us.
And just to maybe reinforce too that, you know, we've got regulations in place and bylaws and plans in place to protect the city and protect residents. You know, a lot of them are based on safety and a whole other host of factors that are hugely important. And that's why we need people, as much as we can facilitate the process in a quick manner, as quickly as we can, and work with everybody. There's still things boxes need to tick off to ensure that everything's going forward properly.
Right, and as Michelle has noted, public consultation is enshrined in the provincial legislation, in our bylaws. That has to occur. I mean, there's no way around it, and there's no way that we would ever work our way around it. We follow the laws, and we make sure that, again, developers know what they have to do to get through. So, you know, as we talked about this one, planning it with you to the point of being able to make a recommendation to council yet. That's why the proposal or the public hearing was delayed, because we didn't have all the information in. And as Michelle has said, some of these reports take some extended periods of time. And while we thought we'd have everything for the 19th, it just wasn't available yet.
Yeah, and of course, part of the process too was alerting, you know, people who it may affect, like, you know, Waccamaw Valley Authority as well, and enough to give them a heads up. And then, of course, again, some of those reports we waited on until it finally was able to come to council at the September 21st meeting, correct?
That's right. At that point, we thought, oh, we're ready to go to council, get it in front of council in April or May right away. And so we moved forward with sending comment or some of the proposal to Waccamaw, as they were one of the biggest stakeholders, and we had warned the developer about that right on day one, that Waccamaw would be one of the biggest stakeholders in this. So we wanted to give them the heads up as soon as we could to say this is coming forward. And we got that out to them, and then we got to the point where writing the report to get it to council and realized that we're still not quite ready. We need the heritage screening report, and weren't prepared to take it to council until that was completed. And so when they looked into the length of time for that, it was at least a 3-month process. And then once that was completed, they still required provincial review and approval prior to bringing back to the city at that point.
All during COVID, so that certainly
That's right. Yeah.
delayed a lot of the processes, both ours and I believe some of the private contractors as well as the province.
Yeah, certainly I think, you've just explained, the timing and having to wait for these things. I think there was some concern when it was brought on the 21st that it just seemed everything's happening so fast, and people got scared that maybe something was going to try and get rammed through. But what you've just described again should hopefully give residents some confidence that, again, there's, this particular proposal needed a ton of reports done from not only engineers, but from the province themselves to go. So there was a lot of people looking at this and providing guidance and insight on everything. And then at that point, again, it was all that was brought to the 21st was making the recommendation that it go to public consultation at that point.
Yeah, that's correct. So on the 21st, we were ready to go out for public consultation. We still had some questions internally that we weren't able to provide to council at that point, and we were really anticipating getting those answers prior to the next meeting when it was going to go forward. And unfortunately, that timeline didn't quite work out for us. So we had to slow that process down. And of course, we did have quite a bit of interest in from the public. So we wanted to extend that timeline so that we could hear from the public and all of their concerns and try and answer some of those questions that they were having. So I think timeline is tough when you're working on these projects, and you never know what can happen. And we really had hoped that we could provide some of those answers to council prior to what date was that going to go back on? The 21st of October. So
19th of
October. The 19th
of October.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
19th of October. So we were really hoping for that, and it just, unfortunately, we couldn't get the answers we needed for that.
Well, and Craig, I think the other thing to bear in mind, there's an election this year. October 19th was our last council meeting. And so, again, we have to be able to give the developer some kind of idea if it was even going to get approved. And that's why we want to get it forward to council, because otherwise, by the time election happened and orientation and budget, it could have been January. And so you might have lost a construction year if it was going to get approved. And so I think it was important for us to get that at least to council and the community to let them know this is being proposed. I mean, if everybody would have been in favor, that would have made, I think, a lot simpler decision for the developer to make, knowing that, I still have some hoops to go, but it looks like the community's in favor. There's a good indication that I can go forward. But, by waiting till January, February, you basically could have lost a whole construction year. So, I mean, again, we're trying to help developers get their projects into the ground. And if it's going to get approved, we needed to get that indication from council and the community.
What are, I guess, a couple important takeaways then that our residents can have after, witnessing, this process play itself out?
I think it's important that, again, everybody knows that public consultation is absolutely integral to these types of projects. An amendment to the official community plan cannot happen without that. So people have to know that regardless of circumstances, there's no, there's no ulterior motives. It's just sometimes we have to bring things forward when we can. And so that's all that we're doing here. We want to get, again, the community an opportunity to talk about it. And that's the process that we have to follow through. And as we talked, it's a really tough business being in development because we have to respect the regulations and the requirements in the community, but we also have to respect the developer and find that balance to bring the projects forward and bring it, to the public when it can come to public. Because again, in the end, everything has to get through council to get approved in an official community plan amendment, and there's nothing that can be hidden. So it all has to get there. So that's an important part for people to know, is that there's laws that we follow and we hold everybody accountable to those laws.
Anything from planning and development, Michelle?
No, we just want to thank all of those that did, respond to the public consultation, and we do appreciate, having the feedback from the public, and definitely having the developer, provide an interest in our city and developing in our city. So we do want to work with developers and do what we can to help them get through those processes.
Yeah, because there is a ton of cities in North America that are trying to find development, and we have to be the ones that stand above the crowd. And so we need to have the development community in North America know that we are open and we'll help them get their projects into the ground in a really quick manner while respecting all the regulations that are out there. And we have to be notoriously good at that type of job. And that requires, again, that the developers know that we'll give them a hand and walk them through the process, and they won't be delayed by red tape at City Hall.
City Manager Jim Puffalt, Director of Planning and Development Michelle Sanson, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Craig.
Our thanks again to Jim and Michelle. Now let's talk Halloween and a really neat initiative from our Parks and Recreation Department that was started last year, in fact. Trick or treat treats, but healthy treats. To tell us all about it is our Recreation Services Manager, Scott Osmachenko, who, as you can see, is ready for Halloween. Scott, happy early Halloween.
Happy early Halloween to everyone. Yes, the weather is turning to Halloween. See all the decorations. So everyone's getting excited about Halloween, I can tell.
That hat, it looks notoriously homemade, or did you buy that?
You know what? I have quite the collection of Halloween costumes, but I did purchase this one specially just so I don't want to tell you what I'm going to dress up for Halloween quite yet. It is a surprise, but it is going to be part of my full Halloween costume when the 31st rolls around, or maybe on the 30th I'll wear it to work for everyone to see too. But yes, it is I'll call it personally designed. Yes.
I like that's awesome, and for everybody to know, Scott is miles ahead when it comes to wardrobe for creative dress. I think Scott outpaces everybody at City Hall. So yes, I'm anxiously anticipating seeing your outfit around City Hall October 30th, which is our dress up day.
Correct. I did major in recreation, so let's make that very clear. So, yeah.
Well, listen, we are talking a Halloween treat for our residents, and this is a repeat treat from what we did last year, which is the Healthy Halloween Passes, a real neat alternative to candy that people can give out. So give us the lowdown.
Right. So last year we had overwhelming response. We actually sold over 1,000 of these booklets. So what this is basically it is an alternative to candy where you can hand out this coupon, we call it, and it's good for any child to come swim, skate, or jump on the turf at the Yara Center. So it's basically you hand them out, when they come trick or treating, give them this healthy alternative, and the very next day, starting November 1st, they can go swim, skate, or visit the Yara Center on the turf. So we're excited. We're gonna start launching this on Monday, so everyone can come and buy their tickets right away.
October 26th, they go on sale, and what's the price point on them?
So the price point is actually they're $1 each. So basically, it comes in packages of 10. So for 10 swims, it would cost you $10. And just so you know that's a significant savings for anyone that wants to go swimming, and another great way to get active this winter in Moose Jaw.
That's terrific. And they sold out real quick last year. So anybody who wants these should be getting them real quick starting on Monday. How do we get them?
So basically, you're going to be able to visit either the Kinsman Sportsplex or the Yara Center. So because they aren't your traditional, you want to hand out kind of coupons or tickets, you need to buy them in person. And the front desk at both locations will be ready for you to purchase these passes. We have set a limit this year to 20 per household, just about how popular they were. But again, you can buy 20 passes for $20 for any child to participate in our recreation programs.
Terrific idea. Healthy Halloween passes, get them starting on the 26th. Did want to catch up, I guess, overall on our recreation facilities. I know on the 15th, Wally Boschek Arena opened, and that was really meant that everything was back open for the winter. Was that right?
Correct. So yes, almost 6 months later, since we had that other announcements back in March when the pandemic hit. But yes, October 15th launched our final day of opening all our facilities. So, the museum, the libraries, the swimming pools, the arenas, the R Center, now everything is back up and running. So we were really excited to see that day, October 15th, where we could launch full programs for our recreation facilities.
Of course, we still have limited numbers, of course, and then a big reminder, given that there's limited numbers for people being able to use the facilities, you have to book ahead.
Right, we're really making an emphasis on booking ahead if you can. And again, for those who maybe have a little problems with technology, we can still do it over the phone, or you can do it still in person. But the easiest thing is to set up your account. Book your times online. I use the app all the time. That's what I really like. It's become at my fingers. So that's my personal choice. But again, app, websites, phone, or visit if you need to, but please book ahead. We do notice that some of our popular swims, our popular skates are sold out. So I actually just looked at, so tonight we have the free skate at the Wally B for 25 people, and 25 people have registered. So if you want to book, please do it in advance.
All right, Scott Osmachenko, Recreation Services Manager, joining us. Healthy Halloween passes on sale on Monday. Anything else we're missing?
Just everyone stay safe. We love seeing everybody at the facilities, and don't forget we are opened, on the weekends. Lots of different activities. So after you're done trick or treating, and your kids might have some of that little bit of a sugar high, they can definitely burn it off either at the R Center or the Kinsman Sportsplex or at the Playmore Palace. So looking forward to seeing everyone after Halloween.
Great stuff. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.